And actually, Dafina and I caught up earlier today, and obviously today's a good day because first vaccine, there is light at the end of the tunnel for all of us.
Yes.
And I suppose what I've been so looking forward to having this chat with you, because obviously we've been speaking on and off for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And your story is just, I love it. It's amazing what you went through, and actually now what you're trying to do, and your petition, it's amazing. So thank you for everything you do. So the point obviously of this is we're going to go into more detail about your story, your experience, but also talk about Check Me Up campaign, because actually ultimately the main point of this conversation is to get as many signatures as possible for your amazing campaign. So
much.
After this, what we're going to do is going to make sure that everyone's got the link. And honestly, I really encourage anyone that's watching this live or recorded afterwards, that everyone goes and does it. So let's start off. So what would be really good is, why don't you introduce everyone who you are and your story, and then we can kind of take it from there. That would be amazing.
So hello, everyone. My name is Dafina. I'm 40 years old, and I'm originally from Macedonia, and I have been living in London for almost 15 years. So here is my story. 5 years ago, I was living a normal life. I was doing all the normal things that young people do, working very hard on my career, staying in the office late hours, traveling a lot, making friends, and just enjoying life. But while I was working on my future and planning my future, I didn't know that my life was already in danger. I didn't know that I was carrying a growing tumor, eventually weighing 500 grams. So everything started when I started experiencing my first symptoms, which was bloating. My stomach was bloated, swollen actually. I can describe it as swollen for a few months. So I went to see my GP, and I went almost 4 months in a row. Every month I was complaining about the same symptoms, that I was swollen for such a long time, 4 months. Sometimes I couldn't even sit down because my stomach was very big. But my GP, she never examined or checked my stomach. She put all the symptoms down to gluten intolerance. So she sent me to see only a gastroenterologist. They did all the checks, but they didn't discover anything, and they just recommended me to take Activia yogurt and to continue with my life as normal. So I did that, and luckily, I would say, after 3 months, I started bleeding between my periods. And then is when I realized that something wasn't right. And I went to see a GP, luckily another GP, and she sent me immediately to see a gynecologist. So I was waiting for the referral letter here in London. And in the meantime, while I was waiting for the referral letter, I had to fly back to Macedonia to surprise my sister for her birthday. So I couldn't wait for the referral letter here in the UK. And because I arrived in Macedonia, but I was still very worried because of the bleeding. So I booked to see a private gynecologist in Macedonia. So I went to see the gynecologist in Macedonia. The gynecologist did all the checkups. So they did pelvic examination using transvaginal ultrasound. So when they did this, they discovered that I had a huge tumor on my womb, which was 14 centimeters, which is around 5.5 inches. And because it was very big, they told me immediately to remove it so I can prevent my womb and I can have children one day. So I was really worried and I was terrified when I heard this. And Sophie, can you hear me? Hello, Sophie? Sorry, everybody. I don't know what went wrong. I'll wait for Sophie. So I can... Okay. Sophie said her computer has gone. Okay, you can still hear me. Excellent. So yes, as I said, the gynecologist in Macedonia told me to remove the tumor immediately. So I agreed to do that because I knew that if I do this, one day I can have my own children. So I was booked for surgery immediately in Macedonia. And I decided to stay in Macedonia to have the support of my family because I've never done such a big surgery before. So I was booked for the surgery. The tumor was removed and sent for biopsy. I was brought back into my room where my family was waiting for me. And as soon as I entered the room in the hospital where my family was waiting for me, I saw that they didn't look all right. And I asked my mom, why do you look worried? I'm back, the surgery is over. And I was very happy that the surgery was over. So my mom told me that they're waiting for the results. This was really alarming for me. And I was really worried then. Soon after, the surgeon came and gave me the life-changing news. You have a stage 2 womb cancer that has spread to your ovaries. And to save your life, you have to have one more surgery this very evening. I was shocked. I was terrified. I was so afraid because I had to have 2 surgeries in 2 days. But I didn't have a choice because I wanted to leave. So I decided to go for the surgery immediately that very evening. So it's been 5 years since then. And after the surgery, I lost the ability to have my own children because I had to have a total hysterectomy. That means all my reproductive organs were removed because the cancer has spread to my ovaries. So since that day, I'm not able to have my own children, and I was put in the surgical menopause. So it's been now, as I said, 5 years since then, and every day I'm going through all the consequences of the early menopause. I started getting immediately all the symptoms of the menopause, such as night sweats, mood swings. And 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with osteopenia, which is low bone density. So my experience made me think and made me realize that here in the UK, the women's health is not taken seriously at all and is failing women of all ages. Hi, Sophie, you're back.
I'm so computer. I'm so sorry, everyone. Sorry. I'm back on a different computer now. Sorry.
Sophie, I just told them all my story. And I told them that everything and the surgery, my devastating experience made me realize that women's health here in the UK is not taken seriously at all and is failing women of all ages, and urgent change is needed so we can save other lives.
Yeah, totally. Well, I suppose when we first had a conversation about it, I think I gave you the example of when I spoke to my friend who's German. And I think they must have been about 16. And I had, she said, oh, she was going to see her gynecologist. I said, what do you mean? And she said, oh, do you not see a gynecologist? I said, no, I don't know, to be honest, what really one is. And she was actually pretty disgusted. She sees her gynecologist like we do see our dentist or what have you. And it just I think it's also such a cultural thing as well that we just don't have that, and I suppose kind of going into a couple of the questions that I have, I think kind of going back to, obviously we kind of talked about the symptoms and the bloating. I think it's absolutely shocking that they suggested that you just start using a yogurt, to be honest.
Yeah, because we are not examined. So this is the thing, because we are not examined here in the UK, everyone is guessing, especially because here, the only point of contact is our GP. So whenever we have any kind of issue, we are going to see a general practitioner. So we expect the general practitioner to know everything, which is really not possible. I'm not blaming them, but not the right people for women's health. We have we have to see, as you said, like in Germany, we have to see once a year, because this is a normal practice in lots of other countries, to see once a year women's health specialist, somebody who really understands women's health.
Yeah, sure. And also,
specialist in that area. So we're not just guessing with the GP, what could it be? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, total. And also it's just changing the stigma, you know, in terms of educating, of checking your vulva, you know, looking down there, you know, getting to know your body and all those sorts of things. Now you're going to do that if you feel that, you know, you're speaking to an HCP that's encouraging that and telling you how to do it. Otherwise, you're just not going to do it. I mean, it's crazy that we talk more about people going to STI clinics, yet no one actually goes to talk about kind of just when it's in relation to kind of sexual relationships. It blows my mind. And kind of going back to, obviously talked about the earlier symptoms and obviously having to go through early menopause. I suppose that's where the mental health side comes into it. Can you kind of tell us a bit about how you know, what that must have been like for you?
Yeah, so it was really shocking for me because nobody prepared me for anything. So as I said, my life changed in a day. I entered menopause in one day because I entered menopause in I didn't enter it in a natural way like every other woman will do in their lifetime. So I was put into immediate surgical menopause. And because I was put into immediate surgical menopause, I started to experience all the symptoms of menopause so fast, so quickly. They didn't come gradually, they came all at once. So immediately after the surgeries, I started experiencing night sweats. I like when it comes to the night sweats, I didn't know that our body can generate so much heat at once. So there are some nights when I'm woken up by this intense heat and all my body is covered in sweat. And so this is really like not nice to experience because you're woken up by some intense heat in the middle of the night. And throughout the days, I get hot flashes and my mood started swinging throughout the day. And I have never had issues with that before. So now I lose energy throughout the day. And which is really another sad thing is that, as I said, nobody prepared me for menopause or explained to me what is going to happen and how to prevent myself. So we don't have any education in the UK about women's health because we don't see women health specialists. We don't understand what to expect, how to prevent. So because I didn't know and my situation was completely different, I don't want to scare anyone because you all go gradually into menopause. Some of you won't maybe experience any of the symptoms. But because all my organs were removed at once, so that's why I'm experiencing these kind of symptoms. And so 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with osteopenia, which is low bone density. So at such a young age, my bones already started declining, which is really not fair. And it makes me so angry why I have to go through all this at such a young age. And all this could have been prevented if we are given a chance, like other countries have allowed. And all women, like lots of women in other countries, have a chance to see a woman health specialist once a year.
Yeah, sure.
So because we mentioned this, so I just want to explain to everyone listening that women throughout the world can go and see women health specialists. So starting from some in Europe, a woman in France, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Belgium, Czech Republic, Macedonia, the country I come from, women can go from puberty and go and see specialists. So why this is beneficial is important and is very important, as I mentioned, because if you start seeing a woman health specialist from a young age, it becomes natural for you talking to women's health, and you know you have somebody that you can listen to you, ask you questions, you can understand your body better, and if there are any symptoms or any issue, the issue can be spotted very early before it becomes very serious. And by talking about this, as I said, we'll be educated and we will normalize this conversation around women's health, reproductive health especially, and we will break the taboo. Which we desperately need here in this country.
Absolutely. And I suppose to counter that, when we were kind of looking at the questions that we were going to talk through today, one of the big ones I think is important to raise is, you know, we already have the smear test. Is that enough? And we both said this is such an important question. So I will leave you to carry away on that.
So smear test, everyone listening to this, please don't ignore your smear test, because the only preventative test that we have for our reproductive health, and please don't miss it. But this smear test is not enough for our overall women's health. Is not enough, because the smear test checks for only 1 out of the 5 gynecological cancers. So the smear test checks only for cervical cancer, and there are 4 other cancers that we don't hear much about, which are womb cancer, the cancer I had, womb cancer, vulva cancer, vaginal cancer, ovarian cancer, and the cervical is the 5th one. So because we are only allowed to have this cervical smear test, and it's a preventative test. So every year in the UK, 3,000 women are diagnosed with a cervical cancer, but every year, 18,000 women are diagnosed with the other 4 types of cancers for which we don't have any checks or screening. And this is really wrong.
Yeah.
Because there are huge campaigns about cervical screening, and they are encouraging us. Go, it's very important for you to catch the cancer very early. But for the other type of cancers, as I mentioned already, we don't hear anything, and they say for this type of cancers, wait for the symptoms to show. This is wrong. By the time the symptoms show, can be too late. I got my symptoms at stage 2 when the cancer has already spread to the ovaries, to the other organs. And my first symptoms was bloating. So bloating can be linked to so many different issues, abdominal issues, as we all know. And this is wrong. It's really wrong. That's why we have problem with late diagnosis here in the UK because of this.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any preventative measure in place apart from the cervical screening.
Yeah, and look, the smear test is great. We're on the right tracks. It's just things aren't being done quick enough. And I think, I think you get your first smear when you're 25 maybe, and then it's once every 3 years.
Yes.
I mean, you know how much can change.
Yeah. Especially in woman's body, we go through different stages through our lives, starting from period, sex, contraception, pregnancy, fertility, menopause. So when it comes to our hormone, lots of things can change throughout the year, and our hormones go all over the place. And we are not aware of what's going on if somebody doesn't check us.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Now, before we go into a bit more about Check Me Up, what would you say? We always like using this because at Talk Health, we're all about kind of self-care, self-management, hints and tips, how you can help take control of your own health. What would your 3 tips be for people who are potentially experience a similar story to yourself at the earlier stages, or what would your advice be from a patient perspective? Obviously, what's kind of your thoughts on that?
For somebody who has gone through my experience, I would say my first advice is you're not alone. You're not alone. If you need any advice, there are lovely support groups out there on Facebook and online. Just reach out to talk to girls who are in the same situation like you. And my third advice is don't focus on the things that you have lost. Focus on what you have, and you still have your life.
Yeah.
And a second chance to live, even to make your life even better.
Sure. No, totally. And actually, I think going back to your point, I think one of the biggest things, the biggest theme throughout this is education. It's, you were the girl that came to London, everything was all going for you, and it really can happen to anyone.
Yes.
The only way we can kind of take control of our own health is education, and just, the cervical screening, that's great. That's one of 5, but there's 4 others. It's not necessarily about the symptoms checking, because the symptoms can only potentially come about at a latter stage.
Yeah.
It's doing those kind of self-checks and just, that sort of thing, I imagine, is just so important.
It's so important. And when we are invited to do a cervical screening, we are seeing a nurse.
Yeah.
The nurse, she doesn't ask us any questions. She doesn't check for anything. She just I'm not blaming anyone, but this is what she's been trained to do. She's just checking. She's doing the test, and that's it. So we don't have a chance to, even if we're worried about something, if we ask the nurse, she wouldn't feel comfortable to answer any question because she's not a specialist. But we are not given a chance to see a woman as a specialist. So that's why here in the UK, women are suffering and are dying really for something that can be prevented if this was allowed, like in other countries, to have a yearly women's health checkups.
Sure, totally. I think also the other thing, and this is what I learned when we did an Instagram live with Claire, was about persistence and resilience, because, and also just because I think sometimes when we have these sorts of conversations, there is, you know, we're not bashing HCPs. We love the NHS, and we know they're hugely stretched. There sometimes is a bit of a lack of empathy, and I think as an individual who's going through something, I think that's where, you know, persistence and resilience really needs to come into it. And you know, persistence, and I imagine from your perspective, because this is what you've had, you know, having your health checks when you were younger, that you were like, no, I've got to keep going. You've got to keep at it, don't you? Really? That's
exactly.
So cool.
So I was, and so now I know that we're going to talk about a campaign. So I got inspired to start a petition for yearly women's health checkups here in the UK, and I was inspired to do this because I come, as I said, from Macedonia, where yearly women's checkups are available from puberty, actually. So women have space to discuss all aspects of women's health with a specialist in confidence, such as I said, period pain, contraception, fertility, pregnancy, and later in life menopause. So they're educated about their own health, and if they have any issue, can be spotted straight away, because you will be examined by a women's health specialist. You don't have to wait for your GP as it is now, the GP to guess, as I said, to guess what the condition could be. And we are playing with our GP at the moment. We are playing a guessing game with a life-threatening disease, and we are wasting precious time at the moment when we are seeing a GP. And some statistics, almost half of the women, 45% of the women have here in the UK, as current now, they have to wait 3 months or more from seeing their GP for the first time to being correctly diagnosed. 3 months? You kind of like you're waiting and you're dealing with a silent killer. You don't know what's going on. It's really wrong. That's why I love NHS. NHS is amazing. But however, I am an example that NHS has some areas for improvements.
Sure. Totally. And actually, I think when you do get a GP appointment, another thing that we hear a lot at Talk Health is actually the duration and length of these appointments. You know, if you've got 15 minutes, and I think that goes back to the point of education, that when you know, do get your appointment, that, you know, and it's been a long wait, you need to ensure that you're prepped and prepared and you have everything, because you've got a short amount of time to kind of really condense it in. And, you know, that's not saying that it's good, but we've just got to make the most of that 15-minute appointment. And hopefully with the success of your petition, and I really hope it kind of lifts off, that these appointments,
I really hope so.
It really kind of goes a bit longer. So in terms of kind of with the campaign, can you kind of tell us a bit more about it, how you're getting on, where are we at, what can we do to support as women, as Talk Health? What can you kind of give us some, where we're at with that?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate this, Sophie. So just to give you a little introduction, I started this petition called Yearly Women's Health Checkups for all women in the UK from puberty. And you can find if you go on change.org and just search for hashtag check me up, you can find the petition. So I started the petition almost a year ago, and I was just after my personal experience, I realized that something needs to change so we can save lives, because 21 women every day in the UK die from gynecological cancer. It's too much. And that's why we have to do something to change this. So I started this petition. The petition so far has achieved 33,000 signatures, but we have to reach 100,000 signatures for the petition to be discussed in Parliament. And so far, I have got support from 3 amazing MPs, which I'm really grateful for. And they're all ready to discuss the petition, to represent the petition in the Parliament as soon as we get the signatures required.
Yeah. Totally. And that's where everyone can make a huge impact. You know,
Huge difference. Everyone can make a huge difference.
I mean, half the population of women, we've got to all stand together, you know, tell your friends, your families. It's so important.
Everywhere, on all your social media platforms.
Totally. And as you said, it will save lives, and it will hopefully prevent a lot of women
suffering. Lots of suffering.
And yeah, it's just a no-brainer. I feel like we should just do it. I'm just wondering if obviously we can keep on talking about Chat Me Up, but I'm just wondering, I know we've got a couple of minutes left, if anyone has any questions. I'm just having a look here. It's just, you know what, we do a lot of these kind of live events, and everyone just has a similar story, slightly different, but you know, they have the same thing about empathy and dealing with the delays. And again, we're not bashing the NHS, but there's just got to be things that
I don't have anything against NHS. As I said, it's just area for improvement.
Yeah, totally.
To do things better for us.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, with these, so obviously we can sign this. I mean, is there anything else, you know, sharing or in terms of education, actually going back to that point, obviously that's such a key thing. Where would you suggest kind of people kind of look for information, or, you know, Facebook groups, and what are kind of the charities?
Yeah, there are lots of lovely charities out there. For gynecological cancer, especially. Some of them is Eva Peel, Target Ovarian Cancer, Lady Garden. I'm trying to remember. There are lots of them.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot now, Dafina.
No worries. So some of them, so they're very good, and you can find lots of information about sign and early symptoms. Yeah,
totally. And I think also it's just the power of talking as well. And I mean, that's a huge part of kind of why Talk Health was set up, was it's allowing a platform for people to talk and share their own experiences, because, you know, it just, as you said, it goes back to your point of you're not alone. And
you're not alone. And it makes me very sad that here in the UK, because we are not used to talking about reproductive health, so it's very sad that 8 in 10 women here in the UK are embarrassed to go and see their GP after unusual bleeding. And this unusual bleeding is one of the key symptoms of gynecological cancer. This is so bad that women in the UK are dying from embarrassment. For some, it's normal. It's our body, our own normal body functions, and we are embarrassed to talk about this just because we are not used to. So that's why, by introducing yearly women's health checkup, we will break this taboo, and we will make a much needed cultural change.
Yeah, totally. I think that's kind of, and there's so many recent kind of campaigns of, like, you know, check your vulva and all those sorts of things.
Yes, please check your vulva every month. Check your vulva. Don't be embarrassed to look at your own vulva. Vulva is the external organs that we can see. Lots of women mix it with the internal, which is called vagina. So shockingly, 73% of the women in the UK don't know what vulva is. Vulva is our organ that we can see it. Yeah, the external organs. So don't be embarrassed to check it once a month. Put a mirror and see how it looks. Do you have any unusual spots or anything? Different skin, color on the skin. Don't be embarrassed in your body. Look after it. Take your body in your own hands.
Yeah, totally. And it's, again, it's your bits, your parts, you know, you've got to know your body.
Love your own body and look after it.
Yeah, sure. And again, it goes, you know, what if you do have an issue, I imagine, you know, going to your GP obviously should always be your first point of call. But again, persistence, resilience, talking. And
don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed on your smear test. It's just there to help you. Don't be embarrassed to check your vulva. Yes.
Sure.
Your body, knows how it reacts to everything. So it's just a symptom. You have to react to it.
Oh, well, it was so lovely talking with you, and I'm so pleased we did this. And I'm really sorry that I cut out. I'm now in the dark because it's now off. But thank you so much. What we're going to do is we will post a link again on Facebook. So it takes 2 seconds to sign, and every signature makes such a huge difference.
You can save a life by signing this petition.
Totally. And you know, it's really easy to share. Tell your friends. Tell your family, tell, you know, anyone, because it's so important. But thank you so much, Dafina. It's been
My
such
pleasure.
a pleasure.
Thank
And
you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
we'll have to do another one, to be honest.
I think so. Yes.
Maybe we should do a coffee morning again.
Yeah, this would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And Brill. Oh, well, thank you so much. And we'll speak soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sophie.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.